Anxiety has a funny way of hijacking our thoughts, doesn't it? It's that voice in your head whispering, "What if everything goes wrong this time?" Jesse Eisenberg's habit of catastrophic thinking is a perfect example. Despite successfully performing the same play 149 times, his mind was fixated on the idea that the 150th show would inevitably fail. Why does this happen? Because anxiety convinces us that perfection can't last. Surely, it whispers, your lucky streak is bound to run out. It's irrational, yes, but incredibly persistent. Now, imagine trying to shake off these thoughts. You remind yourself that you've done this before and it turned out fine. But somehow, that logic doesn't stick, does it? Jesse, like so many others, found himself stuck in this mental loop. The irrational fear outweighed the evidence of his own success. And let's not kid ourselves, it can feel almost impossible to shut down these thoughts, especially when anxiety convinces you that preparation doesn't matter, only doom does. But what if, instead of silencing that voice, you leaned into it? What if, by recognizing this pattern, you reframed it as a sign of how much you care? Anxiety is fueled by attachment. We wouldn't worry so much if it didn't mean something to us. The trick is learning to identify the lie anxiety tells you and deciding whether it deserves the power you're giving it. Speaking of power, have you ever wondered what happens when that anxiety transforms into pure momentum? Well, that's where panic takes the stage. Panic attacks. Just hearing the term can make your chest tighten, can't it? Jesse Eisenberg's experiences with panic vividly capture how unpredictable they can be. He talks about how they show up in two strikingly different forms. There's the active kind, where your heart races, your chest feels like it's collapsing, and your breath speeds up like you're sprinting, even though you're standing still. Then, there's the quieter kind, the passive panic, where you just shut down. Imagine standing on a movie set, expected to deliver a heartfelt scene, and suddenly, nothing. Your emotions freeze, your body won't cooperate, and all you can feel is dread. Jesse recounts one such episode vividly during the filming of Adventureland. It was supposed to be a simple scene, a heartfelt goodbye to his on-screen parents before moving to New York. But instead of emotion flowing naturally, his body rebelled. He froze mid-scene, completely overwhelmed. Luckily, the director, Greg Motola, stepped in with kindness and empathy. He paused everything, reassured Jesse, and reminded him that feeling overwhelmed in such an emotionally charged job comes with the territory. This moment of compassion allowed Jesse to reset and tackle the scene. Now, here's the takeaway. Panic may feel like an enemy, but what if it's not? What if instead it's your body signaling that you're out of balance? Jesse's experience reminds us that receiving support, whether from a sensitive director, a trusted friend, or even yourself, can change everything. And how we respond to these moments is critical because anxiety thrives on isolation. But when we connect with others, we see that vulnerability is not weakness. In fact, leaning on someone just might make room for empathy and growth. Speaking of empathy, let's talk about how powerful it can be in overcoming anxiety. Empathy is a game changer when it comes to dealing with anxiety. Jesse Eisenberg discovered this firsthand through the kindness of his colleagues. Imagine being backstage, moments before a critical performance, overwhelmed with self-doubt and fear. Jesse describes how his friend, fellow actor Michael Zegan, patiently reassured him. Time and time again, "Do you think tonight's performance will go well?" Jesse asked repeatedly, to which Michael always replied, "Yes, it will. It went well yesterday, didn't it?" Sometimes all it takes is one person who sees through the hysteria and offers steady, unwavering support. This type of encouragement isn't just comforting, it's vital. Creative professions, like acting, are unique in the way they amplify emotions. The vulnerability of stepping into a role, of putting yourself out there, is absolutely nerve-wracking. Jesse highlights how working in the arts often attracts empathetic people because, the truth is, they understand. They've been through it themselves. During a conversation with Finn Wolfhard, a young actor who was struggling on set, Jesse realized how deeply reassuring it is to pass on the same advice and empathy that once saved him. It's a full-circle moment, a reminder that vulnerability connects us. But empathy isn't limited to the entertainment industry. It's a universal lifeline. When we open ourselves to support, whether it's a colleague, a mentor, or a loved one, we invite collaboration and growth. Anxiety thrives in isolation, but empathy builds bridges. Think about the last time someone showed you understanding during a tough moment. It likely shifted your whole perspective. Now imagine if you could transform your own anxiety into something productive. What if that fear could be reframed and turned into fuel? What if anxiety wasn't something to fear, but something to embrace? Jesse Eisenberg's insight into reframing anxiety is nothing short of transformative. He shares how he stopped fighting the panic and instead began to view it as part of the process. The realization hit him: when you care deeply about your work, it's natural for anxiety to creep in. Rather than denying it, Jesse learned to channel those feelings into his performance. That rush of fear, it's not a sign of failure, it's a sign that you're invested in what you're doing. And that's powerful. To make this mindset shift, it's all about normalizing the experience. Jesse shares that once he started to view his anxiety as evidence of how much the situation mattered to him, everything changed. Instead of panicking about feeling anxious before stepping on stage, he began thinking, "This means I'm present, I'm alive, and I'm ready." Suddenly, his performances started carrying a deeper emotional intensity. And it wasn't because he was masking his fear. It was because he was using it as a tool to enrich his craft. The key wasn't to silence the anxiety, but to redirect it. Now, imagine applying this in your own life. Picture yourself facing a big presentation or a high-stakes moment that sends your nerves into overdrive. Instead of spiraling, stop and ask yourself, what if this anxiety is proof that I care deeply about this? How can I turn this energy into action? This perspective can be a game changer, not just on the stage or in creative professions, but in any area of life where nerves run high. And as Jesse learned, having a mentor or a guide can make all the difference. Speaking of guidance, there's a lesson he learned from a wise director that might just shift your entire approach. Sometimes, all it takes is the right words from the right person to completely change how you see anxiety. For Jesse Eisenberg, this realization came from two key figures: a compassionate director and a seasoned acting coach. During a moment of vulnerability on set, a director reassured him that feeling anxious was completely normal, especially in a profession as emotionally intense as acting. Instead of fighting his feelings, the advice was simple: accept it as part of the job. That single statement lifted the weight of perfectionism off Jesse's shoulders, reminding him that the goal wasn't to push the anxiety away, but to use it to connect more deeply with his work. Equally powerful was the advice from his acting coach, a lesson that stayed with him. She encouraged him to channel the anxiety he felt into the characters he portrayed. If your character is experiencing fear, lean into it. If they're confident, let that fear simmer underneath. It adds depth and authenticity. This shift in mindset allowed Jesse to see anxiety not as an obstacle, but as a tool for crafting richer, more realistic performances. Suddenly, the emotions that once felt overwhelming became assets he could tap into. Think about it. How many times have you faced a situation where fear or anxiety bubbled up and you tried to suppress it? Imagine, instead, reframing that nervous energy as fuel for creativity, focus, or connection. The wisdom Jesse gained applies far beyond acting. It's a universal reminder that our most challenging emotions can also be our greatest resources, if we allow them to be. And if anxiety can serve as a creative tool in the arts, what might it unlock in other areas of life? Well, Jesse has some thoughts on just that. Let's see how this unfolds in other professions. Anxiety doesn't discriminate. It shows up in every industry, every role, and every big moment. Jesse Eisenberg reminds us that it's not just actors who face overwhelming emotions, it's a universal experience. Take his cousin, for example, a sports journalist who panics every time a deadline approaches. The words won't flow, the pressure builds, and the fear of screwing up feels paralyzing. Yet, Jesse points out that this anxiety stems from a deep dedication to the craft. Whether you're writing an article or preparing for a presentation, those same nerves come from the fact that you care. Anxiety is often proof that the stakes matter. The challenges of other professions may look different on the surface, but the underlying feelings hit the same emotional chords. Think of a surgeon prepping for a high-risk procedure or a teacher stepping in front of a new class. While their stage might not involve a script or an audience, the fear of failure and self-criticism hums in the background. Jesse's takeaway is simple but profound. Don't treat anxiety as a barrier. Instead, recognize it as part of the process. The key is learning to work with it, not against it, no matter the setting. So, here's a question for you. What if you could stop seeing anxiety as a threat and start treating it as a motivator? Jesse's perspective encourages reframing those overwhelming moments as opportunities for growth, no matter your profession. Because truthfully, our jobs are filled with stresses, quirks, and hurdles that outsiders might never understand. But that's okay. Leaning into those unique challenges is where breakthroughs happen. And while rethinking anxiety helps, there's another crucial factor to consider: the role perfectionism plays in fueling those fears. Perfectionism is often the secret fuel behind anxiety. Jesse Eisenberg knows this struggle all too well. The fear of not meeting impossibly high expectations can be paralyzing. For many, it's like setting a constantly moving target. Jesse explains how the pressure to deliver a flawless performance, even after 149 successful ones, can overshadow reality. It's that nagging voice saying, "What if this time I'm not good enough?" This mindset doesn't just drain your confidence, it amplifies your stress and turns every little mistake into a catastrophe. Sound familiar? The problem with perfectionism is that it creates a no-win situation. When everything you do has to pass your own sky-high standards, anxiety thrives. Jesse highlights that overcoming this pressure starts with one powerful idea: let go. By recognizing that perfection isn't a realistic goal and, honestly, isn't necessary to succeed, you give yourself permission to simply show up as you are. And funny enough, that's usually when the best work happens. Think about it. How often does loosening the reins bring clarity, creativity, and even relief? But here's the twist. Letting go of perfectionism isn't a one-time thing. It's an ongoing practice of self-compassion and perspective shifting. Start asking yourself, what's the worst that could realistically happen if I don't nail this perfectly? More often than not, your answer will reveal how disproportionate your fear really is. And when you learn to breathe through those moments, you set the stage for resilience and impact. Speaking of breathing, what actionable advice might help you balance this all? Anxiety may never fully disappear, but it doesn't have to hold you captive. Jesse Eisenberg's story is a lesson in learning to live with it and even use it to your advantage. The first step: acceptance. Fighting anxiety only gives it more power. Instead, try acknowledging its presence like an old, inconvenient friend. Are your palms sweaty before a big presentation? Great! It's your body's way of saying, "This matters." Jesse learned to reframe anxiety as fuel, and so can you. Start by telling yourself, "This nervous energy shows I care now. How can I use it?" For those who work with people struggling with anxiety, empathy is a superpower. A small gesture, steadily reassuring a nervous colleague or reminding them of past successes, can change everything. Take a moment to ask yourself, how can I be a calming presence in someone's storm? Jesse's colleagues did this for him, and now he passes that wisdom forward to others in their difficult moments. Whether you're managing a team, mentoring someone, or even just being a good friend, showing understanding can help others feel less alone. Finally, create rituals to ground yourself. Jesse worked with an acting coach who gave him practical tips. Breathe deeply on set, write out intentions before a big scene, or visualize anxiety as a wave you can surf rather than fight. Can you apply this to your daily life? Maybe it's a pre-meeting routine, grounding techniques, or jotting down affirmations to remind you what's true over what's fearful. Because no matter how overwhelming anxiety feels, it isn't bigger than you. So, what will you do next? Will you lean into it, or let it win? Now that you know how anxiety can become your greatest strength, what are you going to do about it? Will you keep letting it hold you back, or will you finally flip the script and use it to move forward? Think about it. Every uncomfortable moment, every racing heartbeat, it's your body's way of telling you this matters. So why not treat it like an ally rather than an enemy? Anxiety doesn't have to control you. It's up to you to take the reins and channel it into something meaningful. Are you ready to accept that challenge? Here's the truth. The tools and insights are all within your reach. Whether it's accepting your emotions, reframing your fear, or seeking support when you need it, you now have a roadmap to navigate anxiety. But here's a question for you. What's one small action you can take today to start applying what you've learned? Maybe it's practicing self-compassion. Maybe it's embracing vulnerability. Or maybe it's encouraging someone else who's struggling. You've got this. And remember, with every step forward, you're building resilience and redefining your relationship with fear. If this conversation hit home for you, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss more ways to take control of your life. Remember, growth begins with awareness, but it flourishes with action. And trust me, this is just the beginning. Let's keep growing together. Now go out there and turn that anxiety into your secret weapon.